now it's getting a little bit better, but there was a time where I never saw any Caribbean characters on TV or film, right? There
Yeah,
might have been Caribbean actors portraying Americans, right? But in
yeah.
terms of a Caribbean story being told, you don't see that as much. You're seeing it more now.
Welcome everyone to this exciting interview segment. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Juliette Jeffers, star of the TV series The Residence, the new Netflix mystery TV series. Join us as we delve into Juliet's insight into her character and the challenges of filming this show and her career in general. Thank you for being here with us, Juliet.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure for me, really. So, can you describe the character you play in The Residence and what initially drew you to your role to this
Yes, of
series?
course. So I play Angie Huggins, and she is the White House painter. And she's best friends with Giancarlo Esposito's character, A.B. Winter.
Yeah,
And the dynamic that they have is, he's able to relax with her. He's able to, express his emotions with her. He has he's got an important job and he's very serious in his job. But when he's with me, he can just, be himself. And
yeah.
so we bond over playing backgammon and, and just talking about personal things, right? And I think that as far as the show has a certain vibe to it where it's kind of quirky and a lot of there's some comedic elements, but I think my character is one of the only ones that's really just grounded. And, I mean, she has a dry sense of humor, but when you see her, it's really more like just, stick to business. This is what I do. I'm serious. This is my work. So, and in terms of what drew me to the project, it was really more that, in terms of who was involved. I mean, it's Shonda Rhimes, who is a master at what she does, right? And um, and of course, Netflix, being a part of Netflix is a beautiful thing as well. And so that was what initially, kind of drew me to the project. And then when I read the script, I was like, oh, Paul William Davies is so brilliant at what he does. The writing is so clever and funny and, it's amazing. And then when I saw the other episodes too, I was like, how did one man do all of this? You know? So so yeah, so it was just really an honor to be a part of it.
Thinking about the preparation for your character, what unique methods or techniques did you use to prepare for your role in this mystery-driven series?
Yeah, so I thought about it and I was like, okay, this is the White House painter. And at first I was like, okay, is she a painter, like paint the walls, or is she an artist? And I realized that she's a painter, paint the walls. And so I made a little backstory for myself where, it's like, okay, well, what woman, because I think this is a job that mostly men would do, right? So I feel like my character and like I said, this is a decision that I made for myself that she's definitely in touch with her masculine side, right? She's, willing to like do a job that typically maybe a man might do. And also, I kind of thought that maybe she was an artist, and maybe she wasn't making as much money as she thought she would in her career. And she stumbled upon this opportunity to work at the White House and she took it. And so, in that regard, I kind of feel like when I paint the walls, it's as if I'm creating a work of art as well. So that's kind of how I saw her. Um, and so she sees it. It's a craft for her.
Talking about your career, have you,
Sorry?
talking about your career,
Hmm.
have you performed on stage and screen? How do you adapt your approach for a Netflix series compared to live theater?
Well, I mean, there's a big difference. I mean, with theater, there is a rehearsal process, and usually it's like a minimum of a month of rehearsing, daily. Um, and you get an opportunity in that rehearsal process to really discover a lot about your character, to try different things. And, I mean, I love the process of theater in that regard because there's so much to dive into. And when you're doing a TV show, you don't have as much time. You don't have that rehearsal process with the other actors. So you have to do all your stuff on your own, come up there, show up, and then hope that it all kind of vibes with the other actors and what they're doing. So it's not as much of a collaborative effort. I think everyone is doing their work on their own and then they come together and collaborate, but they're not collaborating to discover together, you know? And also just the medium of film is going to be more intimate than stage. Stage is very broad and you want to make sure that the person in the last row can hear you and see you and in film it's just more intimate. And so everything is sort of like in the face and more subtle. So as an actor, you have to adjust,
Yes,
for the different mediums. But I love both mediums, and so it was an easy adjustment because I do it all the time. I've worked in film and TV for many years as well, so it's great.
great, really inspirational.
Hmm.
About the residence again, can you share a memorable behind the scenes moment from the set of the residence that has impacted your creative process?
Yes, absolutely. Well, just in general, being on set, it's I feel like I learned something from every show that I do, every set that I'm on. And it was a real an honor to work with Giancarlo Esposito. And one of the things, when we had our scene in episode 8, that first scene, which was so intimate, um, it was really great to watch his process. His work is so there's so many levels to his work, but when you see his process, it seems so simple. Like it's like he he got into his emotional state that he needed to be in a very I don't know how to, I would say maybe like smooth process. Like it didn't feel like he was like, okay, I have to get emotional. Let me take, he just, it was very subtle. It was very simple. And it was really cool to watch him get there. Um, and the same thing with Uso, working with her was really amazing. And, and to watch her because she, when you're number one on the call sheet, right? You are the star. She had a lot on her plate. And in between scenes, she had her assistant running her lines with her, because it's a lot to take on. And I haven't been number one on a call sheet yet. And I thought to myself, when I do, I have to be prepared for that. And it's about really you do your work before you start working, right? Your research and all of that. But then it really comes to on the day to day, taking it one step at a time. So it's like, what's the scene that I have to work on next? All right, let me focus on that, so that you can be as present as possible in the work. So it was just really cool to watch their process.
Thinking about your cultural heritage? Does your Caribbean American background shape the characters you portray and the stories you choose to tell?
Yeah, thank you for asking that because I feel like now it's getting a little bit better, but there was a time where I never saw any Caribbean characters on TV or film, right? There
Yeah,
might have been Caribbean actors portraying Americans, right? But in
yeah.
terms of a Caribbean story being told, you don't see that as much. You're seeing it more now. And so I feel like for me, whenever I get an opportunity to make the character Caribbean, I do. For example, in New York City, where I grew up, um, there are a lot of West Indian nurses, right? And my mother was one of them. My mother was a nurse in New York City. And so if I get a role and it's a nurse and the person is in New York City, even though it doesn't say it on the description, I will do one, if this is an audition, I will do one take regular, and then I'll do another take as, with an accent, because I figured let me give them an option, and if I
Uh,
can use it, then that's kind of helping to put us more on the map. And so I'm always thinking in that way. And then of course, with the 5 solo shows that I have, one woman shows that I have, in all of them, if it's not a Caribbean theme, inevitably there is at least one character in there that is from the Caribbean, because that's just what I do.
that's great.
hmm
Can you talk about a time when mentoring other artists or being mentored significantly impacted your own artistic journey?
So the very first, I was talking about solo shows. The very first solo show that I did was Batman and Robin in the Boogie Down, and it's a story about my brother and I growing up in the Bronx. And I worked with one of my mentors. His name is Reggie Rock Bythewood, and he's a filmmaker, writer, producer, director, um, and he mentored me on this project. He directed me. He was my writing mentor. He produced it, and working with him, we also went to high school together. So I went to the High School of Performing Arts in Manhattan, uh, and so we all were very creative there and aspired to be stars and all of that. And and so we come from the same foundation, the same background in terms of artistry, acting and all of that. And so working with him was really inspirational because one of the things that he did was he really pushed me to continue to tell my truth. He pushed me to to put in the show certain things that I thought that either I was too scared to put in or I didn't think it would work, or he really challenged me to challenge myself to grow. And subsequently, now when I work with my artists that I'm directing or mentoring, coaching, I do the same with them, and it's all about this one acting teacher that we had from high school who always talked about telling our truth, right? Sharing our truth and changing the world and all of that. And so I think about that when I'm creating roles and projects and also mentoring others. It's about the truth heals, I feel, and that is something that I do with all of my work is like if it's something that is teaching a lesson or healing in some way, making people think, making people laugh, um, then I'm doing my job.
And another question about your career in general.
hmm
I'm sorry. With the pressures of a high-profile projects, what strategies do you use to maintain creativity and authenticity under stress?
Mm. So one of the things when I think about maintaining creativity under stress, for me, when I'm stressed, I get creative, right? So it's almost
Oh,
right. So that is how one of the ways that I am able to relieve some stress. For example, if I am going through something, I might write about it, even if it's journaling. But sometimes that journaling turns into an actual project, right? A piece of art. And so that is kind of like who I am. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I came out to LA first to pursue acting, I thought, okay, I'm gonna go out to LA. I'm going to, you know, make it. If I don't make it in 2 years, then I'll do something else. And I realized that it's not about when you make it, how you make it, all of that. It's about the art. And so for me, I'd say I came out to LA to be an actor, but I turned into an artist. Because for me, as an artist, I live and breathe to create and express myself. And so no matter what's going on in life, in my career, I always come back to that basic thing of this is what I'm here to do. This is what this is my calling.
yeah.
So it's about and I like, I mean the thing is, yes, as an actor you don't always have to write, but for me that it goes hand in hand, just creating and thinking of I'm always thinking creatively. No matter what it is, I'm like, oh, that could be a story, that could be a poem, that could be this. So that's just how my brain is wired. So it is a stress reliever.
This is really strange for me, but I'll take it. I
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, about the personal growth through art, can you share a personal moment when your work in theater or film led to significant personal or artistic growth?
So if say that again, sorry.
Can you share a personal moment when your work in theater or film led to significant personal or artistic growth?
Okay, so I would say I did a run of it, going back to that first one-woman show, Batman and Robin and the Boogie Down. I did a run of it in New York City. And it ran for originally it was going to run for I think 6 weeks, and then we got an extension and went another 2 weeks. It ran for 2 months in the summertime. And first of all, that was the longest that I've done one particular project consistently like that. And so, as I discussed earlier, when you're talking about theater, you get a chance to really dive into the character and explore and discover new things. And and that's what I did when I did this run. Um, I grew as an actor, and I was able to tap into my emotions faster, if that makes any sense. Like it just because my triggers were really strong. And and also, I mean, even the characters, because I did about 20 different characters in this particular show. So those characters really became more alive and more vibrant and more a part of me, you know?
Yeah.
And so I grew so much in that way from that particular run. And so much so that I feel like, you know, that when I did that run, it was 2010. So 15 years ago. And I feel like I can do any of those characters right now. Do you know what I mean? Like because they live inside of me and I'm able to tap into them really quickly. Um, so that was a great experience. And that particular show got nominated for a Drama Desk Award in New York City, and I was in the same category as John Leguizamo, and that was just an honor to be in that same category. So it was a very significant time in my life.
Great.
Hmm.
And talking about the industry evolution, in your view, that you are a very, um, very, very a woman that have a career and a career, diverse career, theater, TV series, movies. In your view, how has the evolution of television and streaming platform created new opportunities for diverse voices and stories?
Yeah, well, now it's there's so many ways for us to create our own projects, right?
Yeah.
If you have an iPhone, if you have any kind of phone, mobile device, you can create content. And of course, you have people on social media who are creating content every day. But in terms of film, you can do a web series. And what that has done is it has empowered us to be able to be in a position where we're not waiting for the phone to ring. We're not waiting for somebody else to give us permission to do something, right? And so to me, I feel like there's no excuse. Like if somebody's saying, "Oh, it's hard for me to break into the industry," well, break in, just do it. You know what I mean? Like now we can do that. And you see evidence of people doing that and and getting accolades for doing that.
Yeah.
Like you think about Issa Rae, who started out um, with a web series called Awkward Black Girl, and and she did it all by herself. I mean, she had, of course, a team of people that she was working with, but still, she didn't need, a big producing company to come in and give her permission to do this. She did it on her own. And
Yeah.
now I mean, she has her own show, right? And she's of course doing other projects now. So does it does make it's worth it to do that. It's worth it to create your own. And I also feel like work begets work, right? So if you start creating something on your own, inevitably more work will come to you.
Yes,
So now is
I
a great
agree.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a great time for to have the possibility to express yourself in some potentially infinite ways.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And talking about creative rituals, do you have any personal rituals or practices that help you get into character before filming or live performances?
Yes, well, I'm a spiritual person, so I pray, I meditate, I will, you know, get my body warmed up by stretching, doing yoga, all of that. And also I think about my character. So if it's a character, I think about my character traits and what my character would want to do, what they do. And so I tap into my character in that way. Um, and I used to, and I'm going to bring reference back to Batman and Robin again. So there was something that I did because the Batman and Robin show, as I mentioned, is about my brother and I growing up in the Bronx, and he passed away, unfortunately. And so the show was a tribute to him. And at the top of the show, when I did that run in New York, I before I went onto stage, I would I did like a personalization. So it's like a emotional. in order to get emotionally connected, there was a personal connection that I had where I would use sense memory to create the moment before, right? And and that's something that I can tap into for whatever character I'm doing. I'll create something, and I'll give you an example. So if um I mean, so my brother passed away. So if I need to get into the state of mind where it just happened, then, I create that moment using my senses. Of when I first found out, the phone call that I got from my mother when she told me that he passed away. So I was in my bedroom, so I create the bedroom. I create, whatever smells were going, using my senses, or whatever smells were going on, that I could in the room, the colors in the room, all of that to get me to that emotional place. So it really depends on what the character is, what I'm doing, but there's all kinds of little tricks, little preparation that I do to get me there.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
So, thinking about your future project,
Hmm.
are there any upcoming projects or themes that you are particularly excited to explore in your career?
Yes, as a matter of fact. I am going to be shooting a short film that I wrote in Nevis, which is where my father is from, in the West Indies. And
Mm,
so Saint Kitts and Nevis are sister islands in the Eastern Caribbean. And so my father was born and raised in Nevis. My mother was born on Montserrat and raised in Saint Kitts. And so I'm currently working with the Nevis government, the film commissioner over there, to help them build their film industry. And so last year I taught a couple of acting classes there, and now I'm in pre-production for a short film. And it's actually a short film that I wrote based on one of the solo shows that I did. So this is like combining, transferring, from theater to film. And it's called Pan Girl. And so that not only did I write, so I wrote it, I'm going to be starring in it, I'm going to produce it, but also just decided, because originally I wasn't going to do this, but I just decided, and a lot of people convinced me to direct it. So I know. So I'm expanding in that way and challenging myself in that way. I never set out to be, I mean, I direct theater, but I never really thought that I wanted to direct film or TV. It just wasn't really something that I aspired to do. But
yeah,
sometimes what happens with actors when they write something, it's one of those things where I wrote it, I envisioned it in my head, I directed it in my mind already, as I was writing it. So it feels like the natural progression because it is my baby. And I thought about it because I was going to use a local director in Nevis. And but I realized, you know what? I would probably end up getting on his nerves because I'll be like, no, 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 you got to do it this way. No, 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 no. You know what I mean? Because it's mine. So that is a huge thing that's coming up, and I'm very excited about it. I'm going to use all. I'll be the only um, actor that's not local to Nevis. Everybody else I'm going to use in Nevis. So I'm really excited about that.
do you already know when we could watch it?
Yes, of course, I will.
Do you already know
Oh no, I thought you said let you
where?
know. No, 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 not yet. I mean, right now it's a short film. We've got to shoot it and edit it and all of that, and then we'll take it from there. I'll probably uh submit it to various film festivals. That's probably what I'll start with once it's done.
I hope I can see you in Venice for the Venice Film Festival.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Great. So, finally, the last question.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to young performers and writers striving to break into an industry as dynamic and diverse as today's?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, one of the things is just to keep at it, stay creative. As I mentioned before about, you're creating your own projects. So to me, I feel like as an actor, so I got advice from a friend of mine years ago, and he said to me, most people in their career when they're working, they work 8 hours a day, right?
Yeah,
And so as actors, we should think about that we should put in at least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week towards our acting career. So if we are not on set, if we're not rehearsing for a show, in the theater, then we should be working in our career in some way or another. And so that means whether it's um, rehearsing monologues, just because it's a muscle, right? You have to, like, if you go to the gym, you go to the gym to stay in shape. We have to stay in shape as actors, right? So whether it's that, whether it's networking, whether it's doing research, and that could mean looking at movies, right? So it's always, but sometimes it might be easier for us if you're someone who likes schedules to schedule it, like 8 to 12, I'm going to read some scripts, take a break at lunch, right? One
yeah,
to five, I'm gonna do whatever. So it's really about focusing more on your career. Now, obviously, if you're not making money in the industry, a lot of us have to have a side job. So we'll take that into account as well. Give
yeah,
yourself time to do that. But the point is to really focus on your career and keep that muscle going, that creative muscle going. And as I said before about work begetting work, so if you are being creative, it should not matter that you're getting paid or not, right? It's about being creative and staying in that state because I believe that work will come to you. A body in motion stays in motion, so if you're working, you're going to get more work. It's kind of like a law, in my opinion. Um, so so that is my advice to stay creative, keep going, and inevitably it's you're gonna be successful.
great. Thank you for this amazing advice you give us. And so this is it. Thank you, Juliet, to join us today. It was a really pleasure and
Oh, thank you.
inspirational. Thank you for taking the time for us and to inspire us with your words today.
All right. Thank you so much. This was great.
uh, Remember, all of you, to watch The Residence on Netflix, on the Netflix platform. It's available and there are 8 episodes to watch and to discover who the killer is. Yeah,
You'll be surprised.
yeah. Thank you so much again, Juliet.
All right. Great
And
meeting you.
thank, and thank you so much, all of you, to join us today. Bye.
Bye.